What's up, everyone? We're back, and this time we're actually working on the car. So, as I think I showed before, I do have a Coyote in the motor, in the car right now. So it's not going to be sitting like this forever, but we're going to actually put a mid plate in it. So I bought this mid plate from Racecraft. This is pretty much where I get all my chassis stuff. And then I also made a template out of cardboard. So we're going to basically fit the cardboard one in here, and then we'll trim up the aluminum one to make it fit. So one thing that I did do is we checked the angle of the motor. So how I did that, I have the car on wooden blocks right now. Kind of show you. I know this is probably more ghetto than you see most of the time, but I don't really do anything with it at ride height like this, so I figured I would just do this quick, just because all I needed was that measurement. My pinion angle was 3, and if you set it on here, the motor tips back about 3.2, 3.3. So we're pretty dialed in on our engine tipment, and it is sitting on the motor mounts right now, and you know, all that stuff should be correct, but I just kind of wanted to check it and just make sure that everything was going to be good. So as far as I can tell, everything's dialed, so we're going to start fitting this thing up for a motor plate. So there'll be some cutting on the cardboard, and then once we get the cardboard one where everything looks good, I'll do some cutting up on the aluminum one and hopefully slide it up in here. Things that I think will have to change: there's a wire that comes through or a couple wires that comes through the firewall here for the starter. Probably gonna have to move them, no big deal. And then on this side there is a plate welded to the frame, and that's where it used to have a remote oil filter way back in the day. So I'll probably have to cut that plate out, and then I'll probably have to do a little bit of trimming for the steering shaft. But other than that, not too big of a deal. So I think everything should be okay. And so we're gonna start fitting this thing up, and hopefully it all goes smoothly, but I'll take some videos as we're doing it. All right, so we've done some trimming on this. So if you can tell here, I shortened it up quite a bit, because obviously I don't need all those wings on the end. And then I did this, obviously it's cardboard, so I just did a crappy little notch there, but that cleared my steering shaft. So then I cut this hole in the plate, and I used a hole saw for that. It's like a nice smooth radius, and I'll just blend it in nicely up here in the corners, and that should look plenty good. And then so this line here is the edge of my cardboard, and then I just scribed a 1/2 inch more, so we got about a 1/2 inch of room. And that is a to be determined type of thing. I might end up trimming that a little bit more and giving some more room for welding on the plate, because obviously even just getting it tacked in there might be kind of lame, but it'll be a little bit of a challenge. And for people who did not know, this car actually at one point in its life had a 440 in it, and those are the motor mounts for the 440. And I always knew that those were there, but I never knew like what they were for. But after kind of looking at it, it makes sense. So it was interesting to see how they did it there. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's got a T basically. And then it's just like sheet metal, but they're so far away from the frame rail is kind of what I thought was interesting. So obviously, you know, you got some room to work with. This one, on the other hand, is much closer, but definitely kind of interesting to see all that stuff. Don't mind the mess. This thing is a disaster since years of racing, so I'll do some cleaning too, but I think I'm gonna have to cut them off. That's kind of more of the point. So that'll kind of suck, because they're in here pretty damn good, but yeah, things happen. We'll work on it. Back of the old Coyote. All right, what's up? We're back in the shop. So this is a new day basically. So yesterday, seeing that we were getting ready to do the motor plate and stuff, and so I had everything up in there. Everything was all good. All we had to do today was weld it in. But last night, Dad and I were kind of talking, and he's like, we should really just slip that transmission up in there, since it is a TH400 and we've never had one of these in this car before, and just make sure everything fits. So we went ahead and did that, and it was a good thing that we did, because there is a big cover on the, it's like where the servo would be or something on these things. I can kind of show you under here. Grab my light. And that thing is big. It's right there, that big aluminum thing. So as you can see, I had to pound on the firewall just a little bit, kind of make some clearancing for it, but that was no big deal. So then after we did that and got that up in there, the transmission yoke was very close to the top of the firewall, and we couldn't actually get it all the way up in. And so keep in mind now, yesterday when we set everything, my pinion angle downward matched my engine angle downward, so it was perfect basically. So then, with all that being said, we ended up having to tip the motor back about a degree to get enough room in the tunnel for the actual transmission to fit. Otherwise it was pushed up against the top of the tunnel, and that was just no bueno. So we tipped the engine back a little bit, and then we went ahead and burned the plates in. Let me switch the camera around. So there you can see we got a weld on the plate. Gonna go back over all those once we take the transmission out when there's some more room, but I just wanted to do everything with this monstrous transmission in here since this thing is kind of a freaking unit. As you can tell looking up there, it does get pretty close everywhere. It's just a lot bigger transmission than the other one, which is normal. I mean, tons of people put these in, but just kind of had to fit it into this car. So you can see there, the yoke's got plenty of room now. I mean, it looks pretty close, but I got 2 fingers probably up in there. So now the next thing to do is make a new transmission crossmember. So you can see there's the Power Glide 1, and there's where the 400 one's gonna be. So the way that I wanted to do this, so we had some room, I made an 1.25 inch spacer to mount on there, and then we're just gonna do some tubes from here to here. And then I actually made those plates today at work to match the ones that are in there. And then from the measuring I did, this is the cross member I used in the Power Glide. They were about 200 thou, like wiggle room in there. So I got some 070 spacers in there. I mean, that'll be more than enough room when we make all this, you know, to make sure that you can get this bar up in between the bar that's gonna go from here over here to the frame rail. So pretty cool. Did a little bit of work on that stuff, and then I'll show you the other one. So there's the other plate. It's just 1/4 inch sheet metal, but I don't have a CNC plasma or anything, so we just did it in the mill, and it worked out pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this guy up in there, and then we're gonna start working on some tubes. This is just tubes that I had laying around here, but they will work. So I put them in the mill as well. And I just picked 1.5 inch radius because that's what that frame rail is. Moved it over a little bit and milled a circle in there. So this is 1.5 inch bar. You can see there, we have some pretty nice fitment. So that makes things significantly easier. So we're gonna keep on keeping on, get the transmission in. But so far, everything's turning out pretty good. The motor is motor plated, and we got plenty of room to take some bolts out. And everything as far as ground clearance looks pretty decent. I mean, this won't be the pan that's on it. This one's too big. But, I mean, the engine pan is lower than the trans pan, and once we fix that, then that bar should be the lowest part in the whole car. So everything's looking pretty good. It is an absolute mess right now. If you didn't know, 15 years ago, this thing had a 440 Mopar in it. So about where my bracket's welded on, there was another mid-plate bracket for a Mopar, and it obviously didn't line up perfectly, so I had to cut them off and do all the grinding, and that kind of sucked, but we're moving forward. So time to do a transmission crossmember. All right, so you see here, we got this bar in, we got that bar in. We're sitting at, my flashlight's messing it up, but we're sitting at 0 degrees on the trans bar, and that's zeroed off of this and this other bar back here. So we are all good to go. Everything looks pretty nice. Just gonna do some tack in here, and we should be set. What's up, everyone? So, I am horrible. I have not been filming very much at all, and I just don't really know why. I don't know. But I will say, all this has kind of come together relatively quickly, so I don't know, it seemed like you just got in a groove, and that was the way it is. But things were going super smooth, so everything went much faster than I actually anticipated it to. So I do have a decent bit done in the car. The chassis side is not done yet, but it's damn close. I mean, everything has gone really nice. So basically, I figured this is a great point to make an update, and then I will just start fresh and just start filming, because that's what I should be doing instead of not filming, because it's kind of dumb. So this weekend, basically, the whole idea is I just had a bunch of welding to do, and I called O'Reilly's because they do argon exchange, and they're like, yep, we got argon. So I went in there a few hours later, they have empty argon, no full argons. So that kind of put me on hold for basically the entire weekend. So I haven't done anything with the car this entire weekend, but like I said, everything kind of happened so fast and it all went together extremely fast that I wasn't really too butthurt about it. But I will flip the camera around and kind of show you what we're working with. So here you go. As you can see, we got turbos, we got exhaust, we got pipes going to the turbos. We've got exhaust on the other side. I do have the other blow-off valve and little charge tube there, but it's just not on at the moment because I had it all ripped apart because I was planning on welding for all weekend. But everything really has turned out pretty good. As far as my stainless steel welding, I just can't get the color right, and I'm not sure what to think about it. I don't know, it's weird. Maybe I'll try. I have a little bit more left to do and I'll change some things and see what happens, but I can weld okay. It's just, I just never get any color. It's kind of dumb. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but like my fitment on all this stuff was pretty good and everything turned out nice, but I just don't get no color. Like, I don't understand it. You can see there, it's just brown. Like, and that was a pretty nice seam. And basically the same thing on this one. Like, just brown. It was a pretty nice seam. You know, I just don't get it. Everything fits good. It's all easy. It just, I don't know. I'm just not dialed in, I guess. But you probably haven't seen, I also got the intercooler mounted up and the radiator mounted up and the fans on. I made these fittings at work and I needed them to be kind of specific because they don't really sell a lot of these dash 16 fittings with a flange that fits perfect to, you know, whatever size end you're going into. So I made those ones specifically so they thread right in here. So that turned out super awesome. I got these fans all hung up on here. This is a $300 fan and shroud kit from Summit. And I just obviously had to do a little bit of cutting to make it fit good. But other than that, it's like absolutely money. And it fits under that just perfectly. There's barely any room there. But as far as making stuff on this thing, I've made a ton on the CNC. Made these little brackets that bolt up to here and they go down and they catch a little plate that I welded on the intercooler, and then obviously those little 90-degree things that hold the radiator. And then right down here, I just put one post right there, welded a flat piece on the bottom of that, and that holds all this stuff up. And I mean, it's ultra sturdy, like this thing don't move. So that worked out really good. And then for mounting the turbos, I made these little wing brackets. Now I know some people have them off of like your merge pipe or whatever, but I did not have that, and this is just the best way that I felt to do it. And obviously just made 2 of them and it turned out super good. You can basically take all of this stuff off in like 15 minutes. So not complaining about that one freaking bit. I know some of you might wonder why I use these rubber couplings when I have a Vibrant on this side, but with this being solid mounted and this being solid mounted, you will never blow this thing off. And it even clamped and it hardly turns. So that'll be more than enough strength for what I got going on. Sorry about this tube. All I had was black, and like I said, all I needed was 8 inches on each side, so I just ground it up and welded on it. Kind of me being a cheap ass, but it'll be just fine. Got the Flowtech turbo headers. They just fit great. And these pipes were just so extremely easy to make. I mean, basically it was the 45 here and a straight, and that's it. And then I V-banded them down at the bottom. So if you gotta take, you know, the engine out or something, all you gotta do is take out that pipe. You can leave the turbos, the exhaust, everything else. So super slick. And then the wastegate is gonna go right off of here and forward, basically just hang right underneath of this turbo. And same on that side. So super easy stuff. Just really, really, really happy with the way it's all come together. The thing is incredibly easy to work on. I mean, I've had this intercooler and radiator out of here so many times you wouldn't even believe it. You know, just putting this on, taking it off, measuring this, finish weld that, just like all kinds of little nonsense. And it's just wildly easy. And that's what I love. And taking these turbos off is so easy too. So 0 complaints there. And then like we were talking about in the clips you've seen before, the motor plate is in, and so is the transmission. Let me see, do I got a light sitting here? We'll go grab a light. 4-pump fuel hat there, if anyone needs any. I still got a couple of them. I gotta go to this side. As you can see, big turbo 400 is in, and it's got the plate on it, and I got the cross member in. So I just tacked it with the MIG for now, and then once I take all this back out, then I'll go in and go over it all with my TIG welder and clean it all up and make it look good. But just to get good stuff in there, I had to do it with the MIG. It was just gonna be too tricky with my TIG welder. And I'm just not that great at welding out of position. It just really kind of blows. Anybody who's a welder, props to you guys. It's so freaking hard. I can't even begin to explain how hard it is. Yeah, so you see there, we've gotten a ton done. Just moving nice and good progress everywhere. So it's basically getting to the time now to where I need to get the motor together. So all I need to do is balance the rotating assembly and I can put the bottom end together. But we are 8 to 10 weeks out on camshafts. So kind of sucks, but it also kind of doesn't suck, because that gives me 8 to 10 weeks to kind of putz this thing back together, you know, and get the new fuel tank and the fuel pumps and all that stuff wired up. Get the new fans wired up, kind of move some things, you know, since the radiator was in the back and now it's in the front, I got to do just some random things and get a little overflow tank and a fill tank and just kind of random stuff. So it'll give me a good time to get a lot of the random stuff done. And like I said, I can get a short block together, need head gaskets, I can put the heads on, but just not going to be able to finish the whole motor up for 8 to 10 weeks, basically. But that's just how it is, you know, parts take forever. And like I said, I'm really not too worried about it. I kind of felt bad right away. I was like, damn, I should have ordered those months ago, but it is what it is. So I ended up getting some GT350 cylinder heads, and I'll show you a little video right now of them in the CNC. But I got them for a pretty decent price, and you know, they just needed to be surfaced. And then I showed you in the block video that I did top fuel hoops. So I had to cut the rings in the cylinder head. And so the rings are 40 thousandths wide. And I got these from Visner Engine Development, and he told me to use a 1mm end mill, which is 0.0393701 or something. Is 1mm. So when you're using a 1mm end mill, they'll always cut just a hair big, and it'll make that ring just a nice little tap fit in there. So, and that's pretty much how they are. I could almost start the ring just with my fingers, but just had to take a nice little hammer and tap them all down. But got the heads surfaced and cut the rings, and everything went incredibly smooth, because that's kind of a little trickier of a setup. You know, it's not bad, but it's a 1mm end mill, and if you're off on the location, you're screwed. So got to make sure you pick up the dowels good. And then I knew I was going to surface them, so I just cut like a 1 thou test cut on all of them, just to make sure that everything was lined up right. And then being that those are GT350 cylinder heads, the chamber is much larger than a 5-liter. So your ring is so close to the chamber, it's absolutely insane. But there's room and it works, so we'll be all good to go there. And yeah, I just got to get some springs ordered, and then I can get the heads finished up, and we're moving along. You know, it's kind of been a slow process, but we're kind of getting all the parts together now to where you can really get after it and get everything done. So definitely going to be a long road ahead, but I will make more videos on it because I've been doing a very crappy job. But got a lot of fun stuff left to go, so it'll be pretty cool. But thanks for watching. I'll try to be better on my filming, and I'll make more videos because it is fun. I just have been really being crappy lately. But so far, I'm extremely pleased at how this has turned out. It looks awesome, and it's so serviceable, and that's like the biggest thing for me. I was gonna put these at an angle, but that just made kind of everything else trickier, and there was less room in the bumper and all that stuff. These don't line up with the fog light holes. I thought about doing that, but I just didn't like the ground clearance there. They'd be really low, and there's just nothing that would hit before the turbo would hit if I put them that low. So this height is really what I like the most, and I'll run filters on them, and I don't want anything going through them. They're pretty expensive, but they are definitely pretty awesome turbos. So it should be a cool build, that's for sure. I got some comp custom turbo cams and awesome stuff. But I appreciate you watching. I'll make some more videos, and we'll catch you next time.